Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do the landscape with depth. You always start with the sky. Remember, the sky is the farthest thing away. So I've lightly sketched it out already in pencil. You don't have to lightly sketch it out. You can just paint it directly on there without anything. Look at the palette. Go ahead and look at the palette. I've got just two complementary colors in black and white. You can pick any two complementary colors in black and white, and then you're going to be mixing all sorts of colors. So I've decided to go ahead and do like a rosy pink sky. So I'm going to go ahead and mix a little bit of white in here to get the pink. I'm going to go ahead and use a big wide brush instead of a small brush. If you use a small brush, you won't be able to paint that big area before it starts drying. And of course you want it to blend together so it looks like it's all part of that same atmosphere. So go ahead and just relax and slide it back and forth with that big brush. If you run out, just load it up with a little bit more. Remember, it's going to change color and intensity on the horizon. It'll be more intense up near the top where it's closer to you, and then it's going to be lighter and hazier down the horizon. So you're going to go ahead and be blending before it dries. You don't want streaks where you have stripes there, so you want to go ahead and blend it together. So I've got a little bit of gray mixed in there, so it's getting hazier down the bottom, and then I can go ahead and take a little bit of red up on the top, make it more intense up here. So it's going to be gradually changing from light to dark on the horizon. Already it's got a little bit of depth on there. Okay, so then for the mountains, please watch out for cookie cutter mountains. A lot of people, they're used to making mountains really triangular or like perfectly rounded with a little ice cream scoop on top. Mountains are going to be much more irregular. So then I'm going to go ahead and switch to a different brush. I got this rounded brush that's still fairly thick because these are going to be fairly big off in the distance. You can actually mix your red and black and you can get a type of a brown. Look at that. That's kind of a reddish brown. When you're making your mountain range off in the distance, even on the first go around, think about varieties of shapes here that are going to look like lots of little crevices, lots of little nooks and crannies. You're going to go ahead and think about light and shadow. Even when it's off in the distance, you can see the different sides. So just imagine where you want the light to be coming from and throw a little bit of light on one side and keep it dark on the other side. So you don't come back and try to put in all your light and shadow later. You can go ahead and, even in the first run, do that. So I go ahead and add a little bit of white here. On this side, I'm going to get my lights. So already it's beginning to look like a little three-dimensional landscape just with a few minutes, okay? So then for the middle ground, you don't want it to be so dark. The closer it gets, the lighter it can become. You want to go dark, medium, and light, or you could switch it, and it could be dark, medium, and light back that way. Just depends on your lighting conditions for your photo or your landscape. Maybe you should leave, Joshua. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and have a really dull light color for these hills right down here. This is going to be a desert scene right here. I'm going to make this pretty desolate. That's going to be a little bit easier to have all sorts of growth. You guys, if you have questions, go ahead and ask questions. But please don't talk right now unless you have a question. All right, so now I'm getting it more intense, so it begins to emerge forward more. I can lighten that up too. Okay, see how I'm painting right over that sketch of the tree? Because it's impossible to like paint around all those nooks and crannies. That's just for me to remember where it is, and then I'll come back in there later and actually put that in more. But you don't want to try to paint around every little leaf. Okay, so I'm getting more intense up front. So already it's got a lot of depth in here. Okay, now does anybody know how I could make the texture of sand? Could I make like a grainy, sandy texture if I want to make this like a desert scene? What do you think I could do?
That.
The toothbrush, yeah, very good, very good. If you use a toothbrush, you can actually splatter a fine little mist on there. It's kind of like an airbrush, but it's very inexpensive. Just take an old toothbrush, run through your dishwasher, and you can use that as a paintbrush. We could use more toothbrushes. You're supposed to change those every 3 months, right? So go ahead and instead of throwing it away, run it through your dishwasher. That'll totally sanitize it, and then you can go ahead and use that as a tool in class here. So to get that, to make sure it doesn't go in the background now, go ahead and make yourself a stencil. You can go ahead and just take some paper, and then you can cover up that part where you want to put it in. Take a toothbrush, get a little bit wet, get yourself, you know, a color that's going to have contrast with whatever you have right there, and then experiment on the newspaper first. You know, you don't want a big blob of water or paint on there, so just try a spray. Looks good. So you can go ahead and spray that, and then if you put a lot right on the edge, then it'll actually not only create texture but shadow and value too. Check that out. So, you know, that's beginning to come forward like that. You know, you can go ahead and do the whole thing like that if you wanted to. To go ahead and do plants, you can use all sorts of different things. You know, these big fat brushes are nice just to do stamping. The sponges, same thing. Let's try that out. Go ahead and just load up with a little bit of paint here. We can throw some green in here. We've got like an evergreen growing up out of here. So I can go ahead and just go on top of this all the way up. And look at that. See how I have different colors on the brush? So, you know, already it looks kind of 3D there because it's going to be lighter on the same side as the mountains and darker on the other side. So, you know, you can do this much more slowly and carefully. It's just a quick rough demo, but, you know, you can see the idea there. And then, of course, you can get inside of it with the detail brush for the stems, the trunk, the branches. And, of course, you can make, you know, even browns either with black and red, or you can just mix it, you know, with the green and the red. So, you know, you get your tree trunk down here. Remember, it's going to be a cylinder, so you're going to have it lighter on one side, darker on the other for the 3D effect. You know, you can have little bits of grass from underneath there. These fan brushes are really nice for clumps of grass. You can go ahead and just do quick strokes like this, you know, very thin little ones, and just one big clump at the same time. See that? And you can actually slowly build that up. The sponge is also really great for doing foliage, getting the leaves or bushes in there. This looks cool. Try this out. You just put some little bushes right down here. Go ahead and get a little lighter on one side, darker on the other. Some green in there. So, you know, you can slowly build that up, and then that'll really create, you know, lots of detail and texture up here, be the lighter here, then medium and dark back there. You know, with the clouds, you could have big ones here, you know, medium size, and then very pale light ones down there. Questions?